Thank you for having us, Eric. We appreciate this. Hello, all. Um, I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with Simplify. If you've heard of us in the past or seen our technology, we've been aggressively in the market, really servicing the local space, specifically for local programmatic. And we've continued to be a leader in that space through a number of different products, whether that's keyword search retargeting, contextual, video, most recently launching OTT, CTV, but really one of our big products is advanced geofencing with conversion zones. And since rolling this out a few years ago, it's really become really the benchmark for any other mobile technology in geofencing. And we're going to walk you through why that is today. So if you want to go to the next slide. First, I want to set the stage for how we're able to do this. Simplify is unique in the space in that not only are we a DSP, meaning that we go into the open exchange, private marketplaces and other relationships and buy media, but we're actually a DMP. And so that means that we have our tags down, we are collecting individual data points. So for those of you who are familiar with programmatic, you might know DMPs as an Exalate, Oracle, or Polk. Those folks are collecting individual data points, putting them together. Simplify from day one, because we were trying to tackle the challenges in the local space, we found that utilizing those third parties was something that didn't work in local because of the smaller budgets, the smaller targeting. So we went out and actually started collecting those individual data pieces ourselves. And starting that way has allowed us to scale in a unique way, especially in geofencing. So we keep all of our data points that we collect and own and do not resell in the open programmatic market. We keep all those data points to ourselves and we keep them in an unstructured manner. And in the world of geofencing, that means that for geofencing, we are keeping the individual lat longs. And Pete's going to show you exactly what that looks like in our system, but it is unique to this space and something that nobody had seen up until about 3.5 years ago when we rolled this out. And we've been able to continue that on to tracking foot traffic at an individual basis. If you go to the next slide, let's talk about how we're doing that. There's a lot of questions in the space about geo-targeting geofencing. And we want to be clear about exactly how we're doing it. And the way that we do that is that the apps that everyone on this phone, I'm sure, has downloaded on their iPhone or their Android, those apps are asking for the location. And the reason that they're asking for that location is so they can make the user experience all that much better. Some of those apps, Pete, if you want, some of those apps that we all know are maps. You need your lat long or the location of where your phone is to make that accurate. Weather. Everybody checks the weather. It actually is one of the most popular apps on your phone. And of course, for anybody that travels or goes on vacation, you're going to try and figure out not only the weather, but where you're going to eat next. And so it's imperative that your phone knows where you are. And the way that it knows where you are is that you are opting in actually through several different apps, whether it's banking, IMDb, or whether it's your web browser, you're opting in to actually pass back the lat long of where you are. And those lat longs are collected via the US run satellites that are circling the Earth every day. So those lat longs are given GPS signal that comes down, it's captured through an app, and it's that information that's passed back to us that we need to go through, we need to cleanse. And cleansing is it's a data science technique that most folks go through. We see billions of signals, and we really cleanse it down to the ones that we can confirm, and then we verify that location information with independent third-party apps that may be integrated with some of those folks directly. So it is really a cross-matching through several ways to make sure that we know exactly where that phone has been in order to deliver the right ad to the right person. So that's how we're collecting this data. And that's how everyone is collecting this data. It's really about where we use, how we use that data, or how we parse out that data that makes us unique. And when I talk about, when we talk about mobile ads are everywhere. About 80 to 90% of activity is on within apps. And that means that 80 to 90% of ads are run within apps. So here's an example of IMDb with Texas Rising at the very bottom. I think most of us have seen ads like this. This is what we're talking about when we talk about display and delivering them on mobile. Here's an ad in a web browser for Uber, front and center. Here's another example of an ad for a display ad. Now, these are the ads that run within apps and or your mobile browser and on your phone, but that's not all that we're doing. We have a sci-fi identity graph, and that means that when we're pulling down the lat long and we are identifying that mobile device as to where they are, where they're going, we're then mapping that back to other devices that they're using. So we're using probabilistic and deterministic factors in order to identify not only the phone that that person's using, but their tablet, their desktop, their laptop, and most recently, able to connect back the television. So that large screen viewing experience, someone watching their Roku at home on the large screen, we're able to actually utilize this data set of geofencing and then go back and target that person across all their devices through this identity graph, which is incredibly powerful and very unique when you see how we're able to set up those custom geofences. Now, who's this right for? I think everybody can think of an example. Here are some of the most popular ones in the upper left. Quick serve restaurants. So, you can think of anything from McDonald's to Chili's. Those folks want to drive people there, and they know that if you go to Burger King, then we want to also deliver them In-N-Out burger and a Five Guys burger. Also, political parties, that was huge this last season, and 2020 it is going to be one of the biggest spenders. There is no doubt. Political parties, not only do they want to target individuals, not only can you identify homes or areas that lean one way or the other for some sort of prop or some sort of district or municipalities, but what we can also do, and we'll talk about, is we can track people's foot traffic. So we could potentially track how many people that were delivered an ad walked into a polling place. Or in the case of a sports venue, we may be able to target folks from one sports venue, let's say it's a Lakers game, and see how many of those people, after being in the Lakers game, walked across the street to the Yard House to get a beer or get some food after the game. So we're able to do that with geofencing and track those individuals, and we do all that with that thing that's in your phone. Everybody's got it. Mine's sitting right here on my desk. That cell phone is a tracking mechanism, and we're able to do a lot because we're seeing the majority of cell phones every single day across the Simpli platform. So with that, I think Pete's going to jump right into the platform and show you what I'm talking about and why it's unique.
Yep. All right. So you guys can see the screen should be a US.
Looks good.
Cool. Awesome, guys. Well, I really do, just kind of reiterate on Casey's points here. I really do appreciate you all joining us. And Casey, thank you for that quick introduction, kind of about science behind it. My job here now is to kind of show you guys, give you guys a real world example. So I'll take you through this as we go. First, you see our screen here. I am a big chicken wing eater, and Casey and I, as we were prepping for this yesterday, thought this would be an opportune time because both of the venues I'm talking about are very localized. So I'm from the upstate New York area, Rochester to be exact, but spent a lot of time in Buffalo. Duff's is one of the original places for wings. And then on the other side, you have Amherst, which is, I can just move this real quick, is Anchor Bar. So we have two different competing locations. In this instance, we're going to say that Duff's is the advertiser, is the market, right? How do we continue to gain market share for Duff's in the Buffalo area, a very localized market, huge for the wings. So Casey and I kind of wanted to walk you through exactly how we would do this, or how Duff's could use location data here to drive increased foot traffic to their various locations, and then obviously increase sales and eat more wings, which everybody should be doing anyway. So this is, first I'm going to show you, this is exactly what our UI is. We offer self-serve and managed service, meaning you could literally log into this, build your campaigns. I'm not going to go through all this, and in another time we could, but just the different types of campaigns, the locations. So you come down here and you'll see this little map here, and we have geofencing, and we can do radius and countries, all kind of table stakes, if you will. Where we find ourselves kind of in the creative or the unique space is our customizable geofencing with a recency window, or geofencing recency. So in this instance, I'm going to type in, I'm just going to look at my notes here for the address. So 4300 Maple Road, Buffalo, New York. So this would be Anchor Bar. As we can see here, we're integrated with Google Maps. We can look at it from a satellite perspective. We can zoom in. So we see the Anchor Bar here, and we're like, okay, this is, this is where our competitors are. We are Duff's. We're trying to steal competition from these guys, and we want to garner all the people that are walking into this Anchor Bar. So I'm going to come up here to this little thing. I'm going to draw a little fence around it, and we like to include the parking lot just because we can get tighter, but we do include the parking lot because what do we all do? We're going into the movies. We're going into a restaurant. We're always going to check our phone one last time. So I built this little blue fence, and we can do various custom shapes. I mean, I'll just show you. We can do, these. There's no minimum fence sizes. We can do different things. Actually, let's target that one out. But so we'll concentrate on this one. So the point is we can draw very customizable geofences. We'll name this one Anchor Bar 1. Now, what is unique about Simplify is beyond the customizable geofence is the actual recency window. So for instance, I can actually set within this geofence, or this little blue fence, the amount of times or how quickly I want to serve this person an ad, right? Do I want to serve them an ad instantly or as quick as possible as they walk in? Do I want to serve them an ad within the next 5 minutes? Maybe within the next 2 weeks. Now this might be like, well, what does it matter when we go on to do instant? Maybe it's new 2 weeks. Well, let's put it this way. Say that Duff's was having a huge wing sale, 10 cents wings this weekend. We're here on Friday. And you saying you want to I need to get this ad in front of people. Well, that would be an instant setting. So you'd want to serve them an ad instantly. We click on it, we'd hit okay, cool. Now, what about if what if it's in 2 weeks and I want to start letting people know that Duff's is having a wing competition and they want to get wing connoisseurs or whatever they may be? Well, we can do that within 2 weeks. Essentially saying that anybody who's walked into this geofence within the next 2 weeks, I want to be able to, or have the opportunity to serve them an ad. That is a functionality that is not with other DSPs or other local partners. It allows you to have flexibility and control and understand exactly what the best time frame is for you to interact with your client or your user or whoever you're looking for. So we can play with different recency windows. So that's great. Well, we got Duff's now. We know they're a competitor. We'll say within a week we want to serve them an ad.
I take 1 second and to clarify something that Pete brushed over, but is a major differentiator is when he made that geofence. Our system, as I talked about earlier, the technology that we built from day one allows us to see unstructured data or the individual data signals. So when we created that custom geofence, that just locked an or an AB1 geofence, completely customizable to this campaign in our system. What was out there and continues to be out there are accounts and networks and geofence providers that that have built some sort of grid or some sort of predefined hash grid, not something custom. But if you were to go after the Anchor Bar, it would likely include that building behind it and maybe the city block, depending on the level of accuracy that they're able to hit. And it's very analogous to what we call data segments out there. Data segments include lots of different types of information, geofences, hex grids, predefined locations that have been in the market and continue to be out there. Those likely include a lot of noise, and they aren't able to narrow down to something custom like this and really build it out. So that is something unique that you don't often find in the market.
Thank you, Casey. So, and just to kind of give you guys another fuller understanding of the window, if you will, we can build out, utilize any real physical location. So we obviously have targeted the additional location of Anchor Bar here. Me going to UB and understanding the marketplace, if you will, for wings. You have incoming freshmen. You have people that want to come into, they're coming onto the campus. They're not exactly sure where to get the next wings. So you can actually do individual dorms rooms. So we can go to UB. This is just off the campus. UB, you see where the complex is. This is actually the Elliott complex right here, this little dorm room. And again, the incoming freshmen, they're going to be there. We're going to utilize location data here, and we're going to draw it around these fences and say, hey, incoming freshmen, the best place in town to get wings is Duff's or whatever it may be. So we can put this one now as, this was actually the Fargo building. So we'll just put Fargo 1. And again, we'll say that recency window is 1. That's awesome. Now, another addition. So this was kind of our first iteration of geofencing technology, if you will. Our next iteration was actually down to the household level. So we can do individual households and actually target down to, so we'll type in Merrimack Street. This is actually the house I lived in. So we can see here, we can do individual houses. We can actually take address lists from your clients. So if you have loyalty programs or known customer addresses or whatever it may be, we can ultimately target down to the individual household and all devices within that household, utilizing the same type of technology, but at a much quicker rate of upload and targeting, if you will. So we can literally, I can go in and individually draw geofences around this house, or I could upload a file that says, this house right here, these 2 houses here, these 3 houses are already my customers. That's great. We can either exclude those houses and say, hey, we know that our customer or your customer is already in these houses or already part of your portfolio, if you will. Let's target everybody else in the household or everybody else in the street. Prime example, telecommunications, Spectrum versus DirecTV. I know that all these customers on 123 Merrimack Street are DirecTV customers, or these 10 houses are DirecTV customers. I don't need to advertise to those people. I know that they are good to go. On the other side is I can then say, let's target everybody else because they are not my customer. They are either cord cutters or they're either this. So again, utilizing different address lists, and this is all PII compliant. We are very controllable, or very much mindful of the world of what's going on with privacy and policy. We can definitely get into all the legality of that. But essentially, we've taken our geofencing to the next level and being able to identify individual households and target all individual devices within that house, and then be able to report back to you, not exactly on house level, but zip +4. Again, that's due to the fact of privacy. So we literally have the ability to target down to individual households. And when you combine that with competitor locations, other events, Casey mentioned sporting events and whatnot, food festivals, to keep it in this example, it really offers the ability to use a lot of physical location data where your consumers are going, and ultimately serve them an ad based on what they're doing and what they're looking at. Now, that being said, that's super awesome. And you're like, great, that's, how do we do that? Like, where to sign up? But that's not all we can actually do. So we'll go just.
But wait, there's more.
Yeah. So we'll go save this. I'm not going to actually do a fence. But because that we are Duff's advertisers, we can actually then build a conversion zone around Duff's and tell you, out of all the locations that we served, again, from down here, and we don't have minimum, you can use 100 locations, you can use 2 locations, you can use as many locations as you want. What we'll be able to tell you, out of all the locations that we targeted down here, Anchor Bar 1 or Fargo 1, we'll be able to tell you exactly when this person walked in, we'll serve them an ad, and then we can actually tell you, did they show up at Duff's 1? We'll be able to provide you that to one-to-one basis. For those who are familiar, this is non-panel based. This is actually the device showing up in the location, and we're able to report back to you on that brand lift that you're seeing. We have a whole methodology around how we share conversion data. We are fully transparent. We'll tell you what what target zones are driving the most conversion zones. So for instance, maybe freshmen are just so concerned about the way they look and physical appearance and everything like that. They're like, wings are, those are fried. We can't do that. Well, what we can do is say, okay, Fargo's really not working for us in this campaign. we can cut that right away and be able to do that. Where other companies that utilize location services or location targeting like this will build you a black box, right? And then sell that to one person and sell it to this person and whatever it may be, because those are our predetermined locations. Everything that we lock in, as Casey mentioned, is dedicated to the system and dedicated to your campaign, I should say. So when we run this Duff campaign in this instance, we don't actually just say that we're going to sell this to Anchor Barn in the back end. So this is just something that, again, conversion zone that we are able to look into. So I know that we're going to do some questions in the end, and there's some other things that we can do. But Casey, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, but that's a kind of the functionality and a kind of real world basis of how we can target and the reporting that we can share and actually have.
Yeah, I was just going to let everybody know that we do have a lot of questions coming in. Everybody, we see your questions. We're just holding them off here till Pete and Casey get done.
Yep. So
I would add that Pete is a Buffalo wing aficionado. So if anybody has questions about the best wings in the U.S., he can answer those questions in a DM.
We had one person who, when you said it, said "woohoo Duffs," so they must be an aficionado as well.
I like it. So, but that essentially is the functionality. Now, there's other things that we can do as far as targeting, and again, this is the whole UI. There is no third or tertiary UI or other things that we do. Everything from a tech at Simpli is built from the ground up. So we, as Casey mentioned, we can utilize third parties, but being a full house DSP and DMP allows us a greater insight into the consumer journey, and ultimately be able to have a conversation with you about what we're targeting, what we're not targeting, versus, hey, I'm going to run this black box segment targeting these locations. Don't worry about it, Mr. Marketer Advertiser or Mrs. Marketer Advertiser. I've got this for you. We'll do the optimizations. With us and working with us, we only target with the locations you want to use, the keywords, which we could get into if we need to. But essentially, the targeting that goes on within our system is a collaborative effort versus a one-way street and let me tell you how to do this, or we've got this, don't worry. It's much more of a conversation about, hey, these are the locations that are working and not working. Here's the lift that we are seeing. So ultimately, again, it becomes more collaborative as opposed to black box and segments, hence the unstructured data. So Casey, I don't know if you have anything to add to that or if you wanted to discuss anything further in that regard.
To add, I think we talked about setting up unique custom geofences, owning that data, taking your information and using us as a platform. We can provide some strategies and ideas, but ultimately, your customers, and we primarily work with agencies or partners of ours who act as those strategy arm. And we let them really design the strategy, which is a very high value, right? I kind of look at it like AdWords in that everybody a lot of agencies are AdWords certified. And if I'm a small business owner, do I want to waste my time? It gets so complicated. I'm going to hire somebody to do it. And a lot of people, maybe have heard of us. We become more popular, but it's in that same window that they might turn to you and know Simpli, or, we, as a platform, we're working with larger customers. We're not working with mom and pops who really work through, partners of ours to execute. And it's those partnerships and that strategy that they need to turn to develop the right geofences, to track the right signals, to be able to do the right things on our platform, because, it can go terribly wrong, terribly fast. As a lot of people know, and I think a lot of people have experienced with AdWords, over the last decade, as that's become a mainstay. So we do work closely, and we ask for a smart strategy to go about this, because you can see the power of it, and that's key. The other side of it, and I think you have a screenshot of it, right, Pete? A quick report is that
let me pull that up. I think it's on still in the thing, but let me.
So the question is, I do want to hit something, head on, and that is, we're talking about gathering data from cell phones. We're also talking about delivering those ads on a television. And if you think about things like that in tablets, those could be cookieless environments. And cookieless environments become a very big challenge for the number one thing that we've been programmed to guide us through the internet, and that is analytics and on-site analytics. And so in response to, if you're a local business and you do, and you're a carpet cleaner, you're a dry cleaner, or you are, you know, a McDonald's, people aren't buying too many hamburgers on the website. They're buying hamburgers at McDonald's. So an analytics package that's free doesn't really dictate success of your campaign. The way that we found is that when you advertise online, just like, you know, out of home or commercials or anything else, in-store pickup sales actually dictate success of an advertising campaign. And we've gotten away from that. We got very far away from that, as, you know, large players have told us how to think of success. Small businesses, they need foot traffic, they need sales. And so in response to that, as we showed you with conversion zones, we're able to show you actual activity, foot traffic that walked into your location. So in this example, it'd be the foot traffic that we saw. First, we saw in a geofence, so we saw in Fargo Dorm, or we saw at Anchor Bar, and then the number of people that walked into Duff's to get wings. So I can actually see who these people are, and I can measure it. Do you have another, is there another example too? Just a spreadsheet?
Yeah, I didn't know which ones we settled on. So I just pulled this one up real quick. I couldn't remember which, if we would settle on this one or whatnot, but I think this.
Yeah, if you have the spreadsheet's a lot easier. This is there's a lot of data here, and it becomes
Are you talking about the sample report?
Yeah, well, just the spreadsheet. I mean, let's just look at the spreadsheet. So we can actually give you a report, or your agency in some cases, and they need to decode some of this stuff because it can get complicated and cumbersome. We could show you, it's all right, Pete, we can answer questions after this, but we could actually show you the foot traffic, not a panel, not an estimate, or anything like that, but the foot traffic that we see that saw your ad and walked in. No, close all this, fine. That saw your ad and walked into your location. So that's for another time. And if you seen this or worked with us, it's definitely very interesting, and it changes the conversation. If you're an agency or you're a digital marketer on the phone, you live and breathe through a free analytics software that's being sold by a person who's also selling you the ads. This is a way to not use that, and I think it's a very good program, but break away from that and look at it in another light. Look at the actual foot traffic coming in and start to measure actual sales in those locations and bring together foot traffic, sales, on-site analytics, and bring those all together to paint a holistic picture of where you're spending online. And that's what we're able to do.
Great. Well, so we have a ton of questions coming through. Are you guys at a place where we could field a few questions?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So gang, I'm going to try to organize these as best as I can, because I got 3 different channels. I got questions coming in here. So I think one of the biggest questions a few people have asked is, where are all these ads seen? What ad networks are you delivering through, and how are people actually seeing the ads in apps and websites on mobile?
Okay, so that's a very good question. You said ad network, which makes me think that folks are probably still buying from ad networks, which are kind of they've really gone the wayside.
Well, I think they're thinking more like, are you delivering ads through the Google display network? Are you delivering ads through Facebook or through Bing or through other programmatic networks? How are you guys delivering ads? Or are you delivering it through your own ad serving system that you've got relationships with? I think that's what people want to know.
Okay, so the delivery of ads, we're reaching, probably 98% of the programmatic market. Where you don't see our ads right now, or Google search, and we don't extend to Facebook at this point. But that may change based on how we can execute our technology in their space. So anywhere you see an ad, any television, potential Roku ad that you see, anything on, the app on your television, the app on your phone, your desktop, all of those ads, including video, they're activated via our platform. Do we buy on Google? They actually are an SSP, so they are a supply side provider, and they are one of the ones we're hooked into amongst many others. And the power of being hooked into so many of them is that a publisher like CBS Sports or something like that, they may have a Google relationship, they may have an OpenX relationship, they may have a Rubicon relationship. So we may see that, we may see that in multiple places. It doesn't mean that somebody has a specific ownership. We just want to make sure that we buy the right person. And so that's how our system works. So we're reaching everything except Google search and Facebook is really the gist of it.
Okay, so you're working with them obviously with Google, primarily through their display network.
Yeah, we plug into their SSP along with I think 26 or 28 other. There's
tons of them out there. Yeah.
And I just want to add that we are fully transparent about where we do run. You do get that reporting when you work with us, so we will be able to share exactly where the campaign is running and where you guys are getting your action. So that's just kind of a caveat to that we, again, fully transparent about what we're doing with your campaign. This is not us running it. It's, again, more of a collaborative effort.
Okay, I'm trying to group these together as best I can, but here's some more, I think, targeting questions. It says, hey, so Anchor Bar has 40 employees. What about them? Are we targeting all of our ads to them too?
So the answer to that is yes, potentially. If they sit in the geofence, but we want to let the Anchor Bar employees know that Duff's wings are the best on earth. But over time, it's an interesting quandary that you run into, and the system over time, based on foot traffic analysis, is going to attempt to try to look at that path and drive more unique individuals into Duff's. So the answer is yes, simply put, but over time it should move away from targeting those folks, but it is always the X factor there. Just like if you put a billboard in front of, it's kind of like putting a billboard in front of Anchor Bar. Yeah. Everybody's going to see, including the employees.
Yep, makes sense. All right, so here's an interesting question. Can we upload a list of past customers and their addresses and then target the opposite within a given zip?
Yes.
Great. I gotta like one-word answers. Those are awesome, man. Let's see here. A couple other things on a targeting. Can you target people at different floors of a building, or is it only horizontally geographically?
Right now, we're not getting altitude, so the answer to that is no. It's just straight down.
Okay. Here's another targeting question. It says, I've heard there are legal limitations with doing kind of geofencing targeting to locations like hospitals or other sensitive locations. Is that true?
Yes, that's true. It can differ in states. We are very sensitive to any legal regulation. The general rule is you cannot target anybody's medical condition. So think about it. If you call us and you want to argue with us, whether a belief it's a medical condition or not, the answer is probably no. I think the only time where we're really going after that is in trying to target new nurses. Our recommendation is to target the employee parking lot. So you can get creative in those ways. But we are very close to HIPAA. We want to make sure that we are attuned to that, as well as COPA. We are on top of that, and we always err on the conservative side.
Makes sense. So interesting question. We previously run a campaign that only targeted our building. KPIs so that we received thousands of impressions, yet no one in our building saw an ad, and we only have 30 employees. What may have explored? Might have been a case. Now, this may be a specific situation, but I'm just wondering if there's some generalized issues here.
So we've, every once in a while that comes up. First off, what we do in that case is we'll pull a list and look at where we delivered the ads and on what apps. And oftentimes, once they see that, then they'll relook at their apps and they'll actually see that they, run a new campaign and they see the ads. Secondarily, they need to take into account, timing. So did they, were they running it over the weekend? Did it start during the weekend? So we have, as Pete alluded to earlier, we have full transparency. So in the question like that comes up, we usually dig in to understand who we're targeting, what apps they ran on, what time they delivered those ads, and then we decode it from there. And oftentimes, I'm not saying 100% of the time it's that, you just missed the ad. Sometimes it might be that you had a cleaning crew in there that night before and they got some of the ads. But from there, we're able, and this goes back to the strategy, right? You need somebody who understands the platform to execute it right. We could do things like whitelisting or blacklisting. If you are, if you're a realtor and you know that you're trying to sell $2 million homes in Santa Monica, you want to be on ESPN and you want to be a number of these sites. Maybe you don't want to be on other ones that, Words with Friends. Maybe that's where you say you don't want to be. You're able to do that. Just know that when you whitelist or blacklist, you limit the opportunities that are out there, and you need to pay for that. But again, it's a platform, and you could dig through it.
Yeah, it makes it, well, yeah, you can do device and app limiting and filtering just like you could do on Google Ads, for example. So
Exactly.
You've got that built in. Couple of questions on the data. I think some people are interested in this. I don't want to go too far in this because, how do you get your GPS data? Is it coming from Apple and Android? Is it coming from the cell phone providers, or is it coming through various apps? How are you getting your GPS data?
So the way that everybody, the way that data is coming over is through the GPS on the phone, which is being pulled from the SDK, which is a part of the apps. So within an app, you have a little program that says, where are you? And everybody opts into that at some point, as I showed earlier with Yelp and weather and all of those things. So that in the ad calls getting passed through the exchanges, passed back to us, which we filter it. So that's one way. So the bid stream and those apps.
Okay, so in other words, within an app, or when I make I may be making an ad call, and in that ad call, because you've given me as the app access to your geolocation, I'm passing along my GPS information along with the ad call. Just like on the web, it would pass along your browser ID, your screen size, the operating system that you're on. If I'm on a mobile phone, it's also passing along GPS data along with that, if they've set location privacy to be yes.
So that is one of the ways that we capture it, and we filter it to the nth degree because our pipes are we're seeing so many data calls. We're able to filter it for accuracy through the bid stream.
Right.
Because, we'll probably 70% of it or plus will be irrelevant, or we just don't have full confidence in it. So that's one. We also get it from partners of ours who are out there, and we also get it directly from SDKs that are integrated. So we're pulling it from multiple places, drawing it all in to validate it, cleanse it, and assure that that individual phone was there and is within that geofence.
Okay, so it is apps, and you also mentioned you have other partners, probably at a higher, more systemic level that you're partnering with as well, and that makes sense.
Yeah, and as this space sort of shakes out, and a lot of those folks have had relationships, they obviously want to monetize, just like back in the days of websites putting tags on the site. And that's really what this space is. The DSPs where you buy the media, and a lot of other folks are data partners.
Right.
And we work with those data partners just like anyone else, and we're pulling down that data in addition to everything that we see.
Good. So speaking of data partners, a good question came in, said, okay, so you've got the geofencing and the geographical targeting. Can you combine that with demographic targeting, or do you have any kind of demographic information that you built into your database to also target?
Coming soon, it will be there. I can't say when.
Okay.
Right now, our recommendation, the answer is you could, but what you are then doing is you're taking some sort of data. If you're using our keyword data, which speaks our sci-fi ID, and you're taking geographical data, you need to match those two pieces together. And once you take more than one piece of data and try to match it, your data set gets smaller and smaller.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it becomes a challenge of what's more important, delivery or the accuracy. And you also have some small additional costs because you want to get in front of that individual. So again, that's a strategy question. You can do it in our platform. We're actually, in future versions, we'll be coming out with more sophisticated models that will allow us to scale much more easily. But majority of our folks are just using geofencing, and the way that they're getting to that demographics, unlike others, is that you can get really specific with the way you set it up. as opposed to large, grids or, blocks where you have to set something on that to try and get to the person you're targeting.
Got it. So Casey, I got a question here. I think this guy probably is in the HVAC industry, but he asked, hey, at one of your first slides said that you work a lot like brick and mortar companies. What about service area businesses, people who go to their customer's location who don't actually have a store? How could they work with this tool or with geofencing?
Well, one way.
The answer to that is there is a way to do it. It's a bit backwards in your thinking, or the idea, but I would have to, if there's specific service companies where your conversion zone is really somebody's home, we'd probably work with one of our partners to set that up. It's fairly sophisticated. There is a potential strategy around it, but it's hard. It is hard.
Well, and maybe they don't have to necessarily have the conversion zone aspect of it. They could still target specific geographical locations, specific houses, specific neighborhoods, and not necessarily have a conversion zone, right? You don't have to have a conversion zone to run a campaign, do you?
You don't. Maybe I get a little ahead of myself. I'm looking at Pete on the other picture, but I know exactly what he's thinking, and that is we have access to data such as people with a water heater over 6 years old. So I think it's 6 or 7 years old. You're supposed to change your water heater, and so we have we can pull data, physical address data, the people who own those water heaters, and we could put a geofence around that home. So if you're HVAC and you want to know folks that are out of water heaters, or you want to target individuals who had bought air conditioning, there's a number of different things. Kind of think about it like those direct mail lists, exactly like those direct mail lists that are out there. You could utilize that same type of technology, and we can pull up those same types of household level data and target those homes.
So that is huge, I think, in the service area business, like what you just said, to be able to target a campaign, even if there's not a conversion zone on it, but to target a campaign that said, hey, we're going to target a campaign specifically to homeowners within this metro area or within this geographic region who water heaters are about to go out of date. That's massive. People might be a little creeped out about the fact that I have a 7-year-old water heater, but I think it's still an amazingly targeted example of a service area business.
And I just want to add, you don't have to have. You can also have if you're working out of your home and you have a service industry type of company. Again, we can also just target Home Depots and things like that and serve your ad. And then obviously, hopefully that they get a call that utilize your service because of whatever it may be. So. Yeah, and there's, like Casey has mentioned, there's multiple ways that we can get access to that data, and it's all, again, under the policy of or making sure that we are abiding to policies as far as PII, and we can take you through how we collect that data and the partners that we use and all of that. So, but yeah.
So I want to get a little bit into the kind of the costs and management side of things here. Well, I know I can't give specific pricing. I think what people are asking, people ask is, what is the minimum spend that a company must do to work directly with Simpli?
Okay. So to work directly, we choose to work with partners and not have a self-service for folks that are spending under $10,000 a month. That's on it. That's what we've done. And we have several partners out there. So if you're ready to spend $10,000 a month consecutively over 12 months and have room to grow, then we would love to talk to you directly. I say room to grow because if you are spending under that, or you're barely going to hit $10,000, it's almost better to work with a partner of ours, because they can really work through some strategies to get you there. We are a platform. We're going to support you in any way we can. But folks that are under that, or maybe they don't want to spend that amount of money, we really love working with our partners, because they're the ones that work on strategy, and they're the ones that know the system best. And we want to support them in any way for some of the smaller advertisers.
So we have a lot of local businesses. We also have a lot of chains. We have I see a few chains on here who actually are at the enterprise level who probably could do that kind of spend. Yeah. But I think we also have a lot of agencies. on
Yep.
here. And so some questions on here saying, do you have an agency program? How can we get in touch and learn more about that program? Do you have white label capabilities for agency partners? How does all that work?
So if you are an agency or you are a franchisor or you own multiple locations, we'd love to work with you direct. Reach out to the contact information. We can run through the details. We may want to take this off, but we do not have a white label solution at this point. This is a self-serve. So this is a self-serve.
Self-serve for the agency or for the large budget spender who's doing direct?
No, this is a self-service and managed service platform.
Okay.
So the majority of our partners are managed service, including agencies. There's some select trade desk and some select partners that have built on top of us. We do have an API, or go in and manage it themselves. But we do offer a managed service for a lot of the agencies, which help them. And at the same time, think of it again like Google AdWords, where you can log into this. The same system that we're showing you here is the same system you would log in, and is the same system we use. There isn't another system that we would have access to, whether you were self-service or managed service.
But we can be the man behind the curtain, though. We don't have to be, if you are, logging in and you want to utilize our platform for all your media campaigns, we don't have to be, we enjoy being the man behind the curtain, if you will. We don't need to client facing.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, because a few questions are coming in right away, people don't have to spend 10 grand a month to utilize Simplify. That's only if they want to go directly with Simplify. If you have a smaller budget than that, they could work with one of your partners who has the Simplify platform, and they will help manage that ad campaign for them directly. Is that correct?
Exactly. So, some folks on there might recognize some of these tools. They may be working with a partner of ours, and that's great. Ask them about some of it. We have good relationships with them. We'd never take that away. If this is the first time you're hearing of it or you're interested, you can reach out to us and we can refer you to one of our partners that's regionally located. So whether that's in the Northeast or the Southeast, we work with our partners. So, we're here as a resource, but if you do spend lower than that, yes, and you can spend, our system, we've got over 100,000 campaigns. That's probably 20x anybody in the space. It is massive. We have our own crawler. We have a lot happening here. So if you do, you want to spend a couple $100 a month, or you want to spend $1,000 a month, we can support that. It would just be through one of our partner agencies or our partners that are out there.
Okay. So question here, and that's, I know a couple people asking, how do we become a partner? Guys, if you guys are interested in either being connected with one of Simplify's partners, if you're interested, if you do have a large ad spend, you're wanting to work with Simplify directly, or if you guys are an agency and you want to find out more about becoming a partner with Simplify, we're going to put the contact information for Simplify once we're done here. When we archive this on our website, we'll put the contact information there. We'll also put the contact information in the Facebook archive as well. So rest assured, we'll make sure that we connect you with Pete and Casey if you guys are interested in following up on this. Okay. All right. A couple more questions here. Does this replace what I'm currently doing with Google and Facebook, or does it supplement it?
So I will say that Google has a lot of restrictions because they're a global company and they may know everything about you, but they're never going to be able to target down. I don't believe, I'd never say never, but I believe they have a radius targeting. I don't work there, but I have heard that the level of specificity for these folks is very close with us and is tighter. Facebook, we don't run on Facebook. If you are running ads in programmatic outside of Facebook, then that's what we would, that's where we would run. So we would potentially bump up against them. So in Google, I believe this is tighter because they have regulations and restrictions. If you're running ads on Facebook, run ads on Facebook. They're great. This would help supplement that. But if you're running ads outside of Facebook on display, on OTT, or on video, that's where we come in.
Okay. So a couple of questions that are coming in. You mentioned the privacy regulations, which is great. I'm glad you guys I'm sure you guys are keenly aware of all that. We have one person actually asking about TCPA, but that's the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. Does that have any implications with what you're doing? Also, we have a couple of people who are in the UK and who are wondering, how does GDPR affect your ability to get data from third parties and your ability to collect data given the granular and proactive permissions you have to receive to get this kind of data?
So we are fully GDPR compliant. We went through the full audit, year and a half or so. I mean, it was quite extensive, and it was very important to our technology and data scientists to make sure we're compliant. So we are 100% compliant. Remember that unlike IP address, which actually is, in California, there's a law very soon about it being PII. You're opting in to give your location through these apps. So that opt-in and those T's and C's, those little T's and C's that nobody ever reads, you just say, okay. It's asking you things like this, like, can we deliver advertising that's relevant to your geography? So that's where we're capturing it. So we see this as the continued opportunity because folks are opting into it. We're GDPR compliant, and anywhere that there's satellites that's giving us GPS and their cell phones providing it, that's around the world, we can execute to this level.
Okay. That's great. Well, I appreciate it. I'm glad you guys are fully GDPR compliant. I think that's a huge issue for folks. Can you support other conversion events other than geofences? Like, I guess, like people like email signups or other things like that.
So we have our own pixel. So and you're talking about a cookie environment. Yeah, I mean, everybody has some sort of event, thank you page, sign up page, email. We would put our pixel down and then we would optimize accordingly.
Okay.
I would say that when you are optimizing to an action on a cookie, you primarily want to run ads in other cookie environments, meaning desktop, because a cookie matches a cookie, which is easy to optimize. The moment that you start doing geofencing in a ad ID environment and you're trying to match an activity in an ad ID and then map that back to an action on a cookie, and then optimize it, there becomes a real challenge. And therein, and it's not a linear relationship and so that's why we do a lot of the foot traffic, is to show a relationship amongst seeing the cell phone in one place, delivering an ad, and then seeing it in another place and affecting it.
Okay. So guys, we only have time for a couple more questions here before so I'm going to pick out just a couple of, I think, the more critical ones here. So here's a good one because we haven't talked a lot about it. Talking about cross-device targeting, right? You said you can set the timing to deliver ad immediately, but you also mentioned the ads can be delivered via TV. How would you reach the target while they're still there? How do you go about targeting people across multiple device platforms?
It's deterministic and probabilistic. It's been in the market for a fairly long time. Some companies built their entire business model on it, and they've kind of shied away from it because people are buying cell phones less often, and people are buying computers less often. So we're matching them up. And when I say deterministic and probabilistic, it basically comes down to, for example, and I'm not saying I cannot divulge who our partners are, who we get this data from. But for example, if you were on your cell phone and you were to log into your fantasy football league and on your app, and then you went to your desktop and you were to log into your fantasy football league, and then you went onto your television, your connected television, and you were to log into your fantasy football league, well, then I have a deterministic understanding that you are the same person and all these devices are connected to you. Other ways that we'll do it is that we will see that this cell phone stops at this home every single night, and it rests from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And we're also seeing that these other devices are at this home. So that is more of that's probabilistic. We also see the browsers they're using, the settings. So all of those things are, in a technical way, allow us to match it up. And the beauty of it now is that we take that last step which is a massive leap because of the volume of people coming online with connected televisions, is connecting that TV. There's actually an ad ID. It's much more like a cell phone than it is a desktop. Being able to connect that TV to those other devices and deliver it from one to the other.
Someone just said, and coming soon to a refrigerator near you as well.
Yes, it is.
I think one last question here that I really want to get in, that it was good. There may be one other one here. Can we use HTML5 and video ads, or is it display ads only?
Yes, and yes, you can use them both.
Okay, obviously, if you're using HTML5 or video ads, the amount of inventory may be a little bit less that's available, right?
No. Again, we're doing cross-device. You'd be surprised how much inventory is going video.
That's great.
If we look around, I mean, just turn on your phone now versus 6 months versus a year ago. I mean, there's videos everywhere. Lots of inventory.
That's really good. That's really good. All right, let me check a couple of things here. Okay, here's one from one of our larger chain clients, chain viewers here. Talking specifically about chains, can you create bulk conversion zones like you create bulk targeted zones? In other words, they have 50 stores.
No problem. I've created 250 stores, and each one of those stores had 12 different competitors against it. And then I reported out against 250 different reports for each store. So every single manager in the individual stores for this wireless provider could understand where their customers were coming from.
And I'm doing one similar for a gym sign up currently, where we are literally sending reports to the various GMs for the various fitness clubs they oversee. So we can totally break that out in any certain way.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Let me just take a look, see if there's anything else here. We've covered most of these questions. I think one last question. I think it's probably it's going to be a hard to answer question, but it's a good fundamental question. Are you seeing it as more cost effective to do this kind of geofenced ad targeting versus more traditional geographic, blanket targeting?
I mean,
hard question to answer, I realize, there's a lot of variables there.
I mean, the more specific, the better the ad. And the more you can understand the foot traffic and where people are coming from, the better you can spend your time in the right places. So we see this as a better use of ad dollars and a more educational way of educational use of ad dollars, because the data you're able to glean from this is incredibly powerful to, help future creative, help other medias as well as where I'm spending my money and where people are coming from, and really transcend to offline. If I need to, if I'm a newspaper, is it effective? Am I able to overlay this? If I'm a direct mail company, am I also delivering digital ads to those same people? Am I getting multi-touch attribution? That's a really powerful medium with the ability to hit home by home, is overlaying your direct mail with something like this. And we see measurable, quantifiable dollars related to adding those two together.
That's great.
So yeah, that's really it. Very effective, very quantifiable. The data is incredibly powerful for future, and it marries with a lot of other medias out there.
That's great. Well, Casey, Pete, thank you so much. Appreciate you guys doing this on a Friday afternoon. And, we'll be sure to put your contact information in both the website and the Facebook group. Is there any last comments you want to make before we sign off here?
I was just saying that there's some other things that we would, if there is interest in the platform, there's some other things that we can do around some keyword targeting, textual targeting. So not just location. Casey kind of touched on it a little bit, but other than that, I just want to say thank you. And if you did want to reach out, it's first initial last name. So P. Wilson @Simplify.
That's great, guys. Hey, thanks again. I hope you guys have a great weekend.